DebitCheck has been introduced into the national payment system to address the high dispute rates being experienced in the NADO and EFT payment streams. One of the key principles of DebitCheck is that an account holder must authenticate a collection instruction prior to the instruction being loaded for presentment in the early morning payment window. Therefore, when an arrangement is made with the debtor, the creditor will send an authentication request through the national payment system to the debtor's bank. The debtor's bank will then send the authentication request to its account holder and deploy an authentication mechanism that may include, but is not limited to, USSD on cell phones, the account holder's bank card and PIN at an ATM, internet banking, apps on cell phones or tablets, or the account holder's bank card and PIN on a card swipe device. DebitCheck authentication only needs to take place once when the underlying payment arrangement is established, and not for every collection that will be made. In a typical call center-based environment where the debtor is not physically present, the most frequently used transaction types will be a Transaction Type 1 or TT1 real-time authentication request, which means that the debtor will have to make use of USSD or a cell phone banking app to authenticate the DebitCheck payment instruction. The requirement for a real-time authentication is due to the call center agent requiring confirmation that a successful DebitCheck authentication has been obtained from the debtor as part of the overall workflow. This can only be achieved while the debtor is still on the phone with the call center agent. The process for a real-time, non-face-to-face authentication will be as follows. Once a payment arrangement has been made with the debtor, which is currently in the form of a voice-recorded mandate, the details of the payment arrangement will be captured in Excalibur, and by utilizing the integrated solution between ALPS and Excalibur, a TT1 real-time request for the authentication of the DebitCheck payment instruction will be sent through to ALPS. ALPS will forward the authentication request through Mercantile Bank to the bank where the debtor has their bank account. The debtor's bank will then deploy an authentication mechanism via USSD or a banking app, requesting the debtor to authenticate the payment instruction using their cell phone. This authentication may be in the form of a push USSD message or an SMS requesting a USSD session to be initiated by the debtor, which is also referred to as a pull USSD. Once the debtor has authenticated the payment instruction while on the phone with the call center agent, the debtor bank will update their mandate register. Following that, the positive authentication response and mandate reference number will be forwarded to Mercantile Bank and then to ALPS, where it will be recorded in the ALPS mandate register. The Excalibur database will be updated accordingly for our clients making use of the real-time web services integration between ALPS and Excalibur. ALPS will mark the payment instruction as authenticated and no further action will be required from our clients with regards to the scheduling, extracting, and submission of payment instructions to the debtor banks. In an ideal world, this would be a simple and highly effective process. However, there are some challenges. The USSD message or SMS link will only be sent to the account holder's cell phone number that is on record with the debtor bank. Therefore, the debtor would have had to have kept their cell phone number up to date at their bank. If the cell phone number differs from the one provided to the debtor bank, or if the cellular number matches, but the debtor does not respond to the authentication request within the USSD session time, the authentication request will fail. At most debtor banks, the debtor may, in addition to internet banking, have to be registered for cell phone banking. This required registration process will not be able to be completed while the debtor is on the line with the call center agent. This additional registration requirement in the authentication process may ultimately diminish the overall chances of a successful authentication taking place via the debtor's cell phone. If the debtor has an account at a bank that only supports a USSD pull mechanism, the debtor will have to have airtime available to complete the USSD authentication session with their bank. Additionally, the churning of cell phone numbers is rife in the lower LSM markets, which further adds to the challenges of using a cell phone as a potential authentication mechanism. Therefore, it is important that businesses consider what the next step would be if a non-face-to-face cellular-based authentication fails. Is the matter simply to be abandoned, or is there an alternative authentication mechanism? We have considered the alternatives and drawn on our years of experience in the authentication of payment instructions within the authenticated early debit order environment to develop innovative solutions for the authentication challenges in DebitCheck. A card and PIN-based authentication is supported in DebitCheck in the form of a TT3 transaction. This means that the debtor makes use of their bank card and PIN on a certified point-of-sale device as a once-off step to authenticate all installments of the DebitCheck payment instructions. The authentication only needs to take place once after the conclusion of a voice-recorded mandate in a call center environment, and not for every collection that will be made. We have modernized and equipped these traditional networks by introducing contracted network entities, also known as CNEs. CNEs are individuals or companies who have concluded an agreement with ALPS and are equipped with ALPS mobile devices that are primarily used for the authentication of DebitCheck payment instructions. The number of CNEs in our network is growing daily, and the interest shown by existing and newly established networks has been extremely positive. ALPS fulfills the role of a contracted network entity administrator. The technical solution that brings all the parties together is owned and operated by ALPS. This is how the solution works. After a voice-recorded mandate has been obtained and there is a failed authentication request through a TT1 real-time attempt, our clients can request a TT3 authentication to be scheduled, which will be done in an integrated manner through Excalibur and the parameters of the voice-recorded mandate for the repayment agreement to be seamlessly recorded within the ALPS system. The request to authenticate using a mobile device can be delivered to our client's existing device network, or can alternatively be channeled to a CNE network of devices through the ALPS CNE management platform. The CNE will be required to trace and schedule an appointment with the debtor to obtain the DebitCheck authentication and, if required to do so, have the paperwork signed within a defined time period and at an agreed-upon rate. It is important to consider that with the envisaged changes to the Prescription Act, an explicit written acknowledgement of the debt will be required over and above a payment made by the debtor to suspend prescription. The ALPS mobile devices can also be enabled for point-of-sale debit and credit card purchase transactions, meaning account settlements can also be facilitated through the same device that is used for authentications. All CNEs work on a no-success, no-pay basis, which means that our clients will only pay once they have a tangible result in the form of an authentication being obtained and all the required paperwork has been signed and returned. In addition, our clients will know, on a real-time basis, which payment instructions have been authenticated or are still scheduled for authentication or settlement. The benefits are: our clients have an alternative solution available should a TT1 real-time or any of the non-face-to-face authentication mechanisms fail. The parameters of the repayment agreement have been recorded for the CNE, ensuring that the engagement with the debtor is efficient and done in a controlled manner. If permitted through user rights settings, the CNE can renegotiate the repayment terms and obtain and specify the correct salary payment strike dates to ensure a higher potential success rate. There are significant cost savings for businesses, as they don't have to establish their own network of devices on a nationwide basis and consequently pay the overhead costs associated with maintaining such a network. The costs for obtaining authentication and/or obtaining signatures on required paperwork is only charged for successfully executed instructions within the ALPS shared national infrastructure. Businesses, whether small or big, can remain on their respective appointed panels, remain commercially viable, and not suffer any potential negative drawbacks due to the introduction of DebitCheck into the national payment system. While there are potential challenges with the introduction of DebitCheck, we at ALPS look for solutions. We have the experience, infrastructure, innovative solutions, and relationships with like-minded innovative companies, such as Futuresoft, to ensure that the implementation of DebitCheck creates opportunities and not threats. Look for a way, not a way out. ALPS. Your success is our success.